Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Chapter 6, Mean and Standard Deviation of a Discrete Probability Distribution. So we had left off at the end of example 6, calculating the mean and the standard deviation, and we did it by hand using the formula, each respective formula. And what I had said was, the calculator has a function where we can calculate the mean and the standard deviation really quickly without having to go through the formulas by hand. So we're going to do that right now. But the first thing we have to do is we have to enter the discrete probability distribution into the calculator. So we're going to enter the probability distribution exactly as we see it. So you're going to put your X values into a list. So mine went into L1 and I put my P of X values into L2. So you guys could take a minute and pause here, go into your calculator and enter X into a list and P of X into a separate list. So basically you're recreating the probability distribution in your calculator. So like I said, I have this probability distribution in L1 and L2, and it looks exactly like it does on the paper, right? X is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have my probabilities of 0.35, 0.35, 0.15, 0.1, and 0.05. And I just want to point out that I have the steps that we're going to follow in the calculator right here, right below this question highlighted in yellow. So how to find the mean and standard deviation of a discrete probability distribution. And both are in the same place. So once we follow these steps, we're going to see both the mean and the standard deviation. So the first thing that we did was we entered the X values into a list, and then we entered the P of X values into a separate list. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press stat over to calc and one variable stats, just like we did in the past to get the mean and the standard deviation. But now it's going to be a little bit different. So I'll do it with you. So we're going to press stat. We're going to arrow over to calc. We're going to choose one variable stats, option 1. So now for list, you're going to put the name of the list where you put your X values. Now we're going to fill in frequency list. You're going to put the list where you put the P of X values, the probability values. For me, that was L2. So for frequency list, I'm going to put L2. And then what the calculator is going to do is once we press calculate, it's going to calculate the mean and the standard deviation using the same formula that we did in the last lesson. But look at how quick this is, you see? So the first thing that pops up is the mean. Remember, the calculator doesn't use mu. By default, it uses X bar. So there's our 2.15 passengers per car. And then look at the bottom, it gives us sigma, which is the standard deviation, and it's 1.15, just like we got when we did it by hand, right? It was 1.15 passengers per car. So this matches exactly what we did by hand, but look at how quick this was, right? So going forward, I want you to use the calculator to get the mean and the standard deviation of a discrete probability distribution. Make your life easier. So we're going to do another practice question. And I just want to point out here, step 4 is what we just did. For the list, you're going to put the name of your X list. And then for frequency list, you're going to put the name where you put the P of X values. And then you're going to calculate. So let's look at example 7. In a pizza takeout restaurant, the following probability distribution was obtained. The random variable X represents the number of toppings for a large pizza. Find the mean and standard deviation. So I'm asking for mu and I'm asking for sigma for this discrete probability distribution. So what we have to do is enter the X values into a list, and I want you to enter your P of X values into a separate list. I already did it, and I used L3 for my X values and L4 for my P of X values. And you guys could put X and P of X in whatever list you want. And then we're gonna follow the same steps above. We're gonna do a one variable stat. So if you have to pause here to enter those values into the calculator, do so, and then resume. And then you can follow my steps. So you could see my probability distribution is in L3 and L4. So we're going to press stat, arrow over to calc, one variable stats. Now the X list goes first, and that for me was L3. Now the P of X list, and for me that was L4. And now we could calculate. And we get a mean of 1.14 with a standard deviation, let's go two places, of about 1.04. So the mean is equal to 1.14 toppings on average. And there's an average deviation of about 1.04 toppings per pizza from the mean. So like I said, going forward, whether it's on a test or a quiz or practice or my stat lab questions, whenever you're given a discrete probability distribution and you need to find the mean and or standard deviation, use one variable stat in the calculator. It's gonna make it much faster and easier rather than going through the formulas where potentially, it's easy to make an algebraic mistake. So this wraps up section 6.4. In the next lecture, we're going to start 6.5, binomial probability distribution.